Seeger. I'm sorry, Phil Oakes used to sing this song, Love Me, I'm a Liberal. And one of the verses was, I attend all the Pete Seeger concerts. He sure gets me singing those songs. I'll send all the money you ask for, but don't ask me to come on along. Yeah. And back in the early 60s, the closest I got to struggle was attending Pete Seeger concerts. At that time, however, here in Birmingham, back then it was known as Birmingham, people were at risk. African Americans were at risk for protesting. But perhaps even more at risk were the white people who supported them. And perhaps most at risk were white people who came from Birmingham, who joined with Reverend Shuttlesworth, who joined and marched with Dr. King. And Jack was one of those very few people. He has been tested in ways that I have never had to confront. And it is about time, frankly, even though you embarrassed me by making me do this, it is about time, and we've been saying for years, we should do something to honor his history. I am really very, very happy that we have finally done it. Jack, I won't read this because it's exactly the same thing as what was read about Gwen, except it has your name instead of hers, but come on up and get it.
I think David spoke correctly when he said, and it is correct, that the same plaques say the same thing. We're just the long and short of it. It's hard to say when my soul got in the movement. It was way back in the 50s. Though out of context. I joined as a freshman in high school with a teacher there. It was at Phillips High School. It was segregated right in the middle of Birmingham, with a teacher there, Virginia Prater, who formed a group called the Promoters Goodwill and Understanding. And we worked for the UN, and we talked about racism, and we occasionally found someone to meet with. At one point we met with Fred Shuttlesworth. We didn't meet with many blacks because we couldn't in 50 to 54. But we got the start. We got the start. And after that, I ended up at Southwestern at Memphis in college. Took some money down on a trip to stop by Dr. King's church, Next Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, and gave him some money that we'd collected for the movement there. It was toward the end of the Montgomery bus boycott, where they were talking about equality. Equality, equality. I came back and he invited us to go to Highlander Folk School that November. I think it was over Thanksgiving, but there was going to be a conference, a youth conference. It was the first contact I'd ever had growing up in North Birmingham with black youth my age as one-to-one human beings. It was a powerful moment. And there we came to a very difficult conclusion. No one wanted it. That we could not get equality now. We had to go for freedom. And that's why we're here right now. You got freedom. Joseph Lowery, president of SCLC, that was his church right next door in the movement. He said, equality, he said, freedom means that you are free to check into any hotel in America. You're just not free to check out. This equality is the goal that we must seek and we must find. Dr. King was there. Jim Farmer from CORE was there. I went back and formed a CORE chapter with some other folks in Memphis, a student chapter. Thank you. We we started playing softball games together, 3 of them on the black campus, and then we had one at Southwestern, and I was kicked out of Southwestern for that one. This is now Rhodes College. And transferred to Birmingham Southern, who accepted me in spite of the fact that I'd been kicked out of school. Pretty courageous. I'm getting ready to graduate now. I met Dr. Shuttlesworth there at the Alabama Council on Human Relations, which is a talk group mostly. It was still too early. I graduated there in '59. But Bull Connor, the infamous police commissioner of Birmingham, was going to be the chapel speaker about 4 to 6 weeks before I was to graduate. And you had to go to chapel. So I went to chapel and sat there, and I was just going to sit there glumly. And I'm going to say exactly what happened. He said that on last Sunday, the Birmingham Post-Herald, and he said it in his deep southern accent, posted an article that said that 27 times as many Negroes as whites died in the Birmingham City Jail every year. And he said, they're implying we're killing them. We're not killing them, they just don't live well in captivity. And I found myself standing and saying, you're murdering them. He says, who is that boy? And I said, I'm a man, I'm Jack Zylman, and you're a murderer. Chapel ended then. We did not have a benediction, we had a malediction. I managed, the president of the school was very good. He kept me in. The Ku Klux Klan, they sent the Ku Klux Klan, the police did, to our house to go burn 2 crosses. The second one, I fired what was literally a nonviolent shotgun at the cross. It didn't hit anybody. It blew the cross apart. They were standing on a bank 3 feet above the sidewalk in their white dresses. Turned and run, dived onto the sidewalk face first, crawled to their cars, and they never did come back. So much for the courage of the Ku Klux Klan. I went off to Columbia Seminary, Decatur, Georgia, where I met Dr. King there. He was there. That became my home church for almost 2 years there. I went there every time I wasn't preaching somewhere else, but I was in a Presbyterian school. Segregated and racist. And we had many conflicts. I finally had to quit. The school later told people I'd been thrown out. They were so disliked me, but I quit. Went to the University of Chicago, and there had great days. In 1963, as things started to break out here, I told Reverend Shuttlesworth, I was home for a moment there at the beginning, back and forth, but this was still home. And I said, I'll take up this time, semester, and stay here and get, in the demonstrations. And he said, no, go back. To get your education. We'll be here when you get out. And the movement has stopped by then. There was one in those few months, as far as the marches went. Then we changed governments. Got rid of Bull Connor. There he is. And we began to bring in a new way of governing ourselves here. But in Chicago, I had already been a leader of a student uprising in Memphis. We started that. We had an uprising there, a strike there before Berkeley, which is supposed to be the first one. Then, though, as I was getting ready to graduate, again, my last month, I graduated from anywhere, something strange happened. HUAC came to Chicago, House Un-American Activities Committee. And we said, we ain't gonna let it happen. We flooded the place. I was arrested 3 times in 2 days, and we drove them out of town. It was the first time they didn't finish a hearing, and the last time they came out of Washington, D.C., so I feel good about that. I went on to be minister to students for the Unitarians in Boston. I took a group of 37 students, and in 2 years we had over 1,000 in the group. I was also chair of the peace movement there, and I was fired by the Unitarians for leading the peace movement. Happened again later, and I gave up on Boston Unitarians. Since then, it's just been the struggle. I was the original executive director of the Freedom Democrats here, called the National Democratic Party of Alabama. We elected the first blacks in the history of the state of Alabama since Reconstruction. I had a few bullet holes in my car, but it was a big, heavy Packard, and they couldn't go through it. Then, after a number of things, I've spent my life being busy. Congressman Earl Hilliard asked me to come to Washington and join him, his staff there, as he's elected, to handle health care and health care reform, because we were for single payer. Absolute health care for everybody, all of it. And but it did organize the first union ever to be in the United States Congress. You just can't stop, folks. And when Dr. King talked himself, this is my life. And every time it was that same feeling when I found myself standing in that chapel in Birmingham Southern and saying, "You're a murderer." It lifts me up. It's the air beneath the wings. It's my faith. And my faith is not into a man in the sky. It's a living spirit that moves in all of us. And we need to quit trying to define it and make it a man or something like that. But I'm keeping it on going. And the movement never stops. It just goes on. Sometimes it's quiet. But the spirit is always there. And I want to thank you for this award. I'm going to show it to my daughter, who's connected with them. She's in San Antonio. We've got connections, the strangest networks in this world here. One of the wonderful ones. It's wonderful. This is the invisible church. And don't ever forget you're in it, whoever you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you.